I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough to see what's next. Birds don't just fly, they fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No I won't leave, I wanna try everything, I wanna try even though I could fail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zootopia Minute podcast, the minute-by-minute podcast where we review your favorite anthro-animal movie. Yes, your favorite one from 2016, Zootopia. I am your co-host and resident birthday boy for this evening, Choco, and I'm joined here with my good friend and co-host as always,
Simul, happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Now, what did you get me for my birthday?
You'll have to wait for Everfree to find out.
All right, that'll be fun. Speaking of which, we are doing a panel at Everfree, and we'll talk about that at the end of this podcast. But
Yes,
for this
we will.
episode, we are reviewing minute 68. That is from timestamp 10800 to 10859. And that moment starts slightly before the dialogue. We have a scene where the wolves barged into the containment room that they're in. And Nick first says, "Great, we're dead, that's it." And Judy asks him, "Can you swim?" And Nick looks confused, saying, "Wait, can I swim?" And the minute ends when Chief Bogo says, "Clawhauser, can't you see I'm working on the missing mammal cases?" Clawhauser says, "Oh, yes, right, of course, about that, sir." Yeah, so minute 68 is one of the moments where I could find a lot of little things to talk about. In fact, before we started doing this podcast, this was probably the 1 minute where I told myself, hey, if I ever do a podcast about Zootopia where I analyze it minute by minute, this is the 1 minute I want to analyze because there's a lot of nice little nitty-gritty stuff here.
Yeah, no, this is certainly a really interesting minute for sure. Just to, again, go over some of the events that happen here. Remember, Nick and Judy were sneaking around within Cliffside to try and get evidence of what was going on. We just discovered that it's actually Mayor Lionheart behind all the missing mammals. He has them locked up in cages here at this decommissioned mental institute. And Mayor Lionheart and the honey badger had just gone out the door because Judy's phone went off. So now they're doing a security sweep. Nick and Judy just got locked into this cell. And the first thing we hear is Nick gasping, or to me it sounds kind of like he's saying look, but it's not in the transcript. So we'll go with a gasp because we can see some wolves' ears through the door into the room. So Nick, upon seeing that the wolves are about to barge into the room and catch him and Judy, says, "Great, we're dead, that's it. I'm dead, you're dead, everybody's dead." At which point he is leaning against a toilet. Judy then asks, "Can you swim?" "What, can I swim?" "Yes, I can swim." "Why?" They proceed to go down into the toilet to escape just in time. They land in the water below. Judy has her cell phone in a plastic bag to keep it safe and says, "We gotta tell Bogo." We then have a scene change, which is why our minute ends on Bogo. Clawhauser has just barged in on Chief Bogo playing with that Gazelle app, which we saw Clawhauser working on earlier, to tell Chief Bogo, "Hey, by the way, Officer Hops just called." So another really interesting minute, packed full of action here. So why don't we start here with the beginning here? What is the very first thing that you think makes this minute interesting?
Well, actually, I think you were the one who pointed it out. When you freeze frame at the keypad, the pound symbol is actually a paw print.
Oh yeah, well not the pound, but the asterisk, right?
Asterisk symbol is a paw print, yeah.
Yeah, there's a keypad on the cell, like for the code to get in, the cell that they're locked in, and it's like the regular layout of a number pad, but then where the star would be, there's a paw print. Because, hey, it's animals. You gotta make stuff different somehow.
So, the other thing I really thought was curious was the size comparison. So, the sizes of the toilet that Nick was leaning on. And so, obviously, these cages, or these insane pins, were built for, I guess they're expecting larger mammals, even though the otter we saw, Otterton, in the previous minute is obviously much more smaller. But I like that they kind of assume all the animals that they'll have locked up in here are pretty large, because that toilet bowl looks pretty big compared to Nick.
It really does. Yeah, you can see this toilet bowl behind Nick. He's kind of leaning against it as he's seeing, "Great, we're dead, that's it, I'm dead, you're dead, everybody's dead." The shot kind of sets it up for like what obviously is going to happen next. And then Judy saying, "Can you swim?" Nick responding, "What? Can I swim? Yes, I can swim. Why?" why. So that toilet makes it kind of obvious what's going to happen next. But you're right. I guess the cells were designed for larger animals, which also begs the question, why hasn't Otterton escaped through the toilet? Are all of the toilets this big in every cell?
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. They must have been like one consistent size because Otterton is obviously much too small for that. But at the same time, I don't think an otter that went savage was going to want to weasel his way down the toilet.
Actually, he would otter his way down the toilet because he's an otter.
Sure, otter his
weasel.
way down the toilet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this, okay, so this scene also brings me to my next point, which I'm really, really glad is brought up because this is something my dad used to make me do all the time. Something my dad used to do, I guess maybe because of his time in the Marine Corps and then the police department. No, always have a plastic Ziploc bag handy. Like when I was growing up, my dad always told me, okay, make sure to have tissue paper and a plastic Ziploc bag on you wherever you go. So it doesn't matter if we went camping or if we just went to the mall. We always have to have these like random things. We always had to have a green handkerchief, a pack of tissue papers, and a few Ziploc bags in handy. In fact, I was just going through all my stuff and I found all my first aid kits my dad packed for me. And there was like nothing but like packs and packs of like random Ziploc bags. And it's a habit I picked up from my dad specifically because my dad kept on making me doing it. But I wonder if it's something to do with, for police officers, you do need to have evidence bags handy. In the military, sometimes you need to maybe collect or hold things and you don't want them to get dirty or wet. So Ziploc bags come in handy. But that's something that my dad used to do a lot and I kind of picked up as a habit. So it's very interesting to see Judy do the same thing, have a Ziploc bag ready to put her cell phone in.
Well, you know what? I was also wondering, like, why does she just have that bag? But I guess you're a cop, you got to pick up evidence, right?
Yeah.
You need a safe place to keep evidence. So that's probably why she just has Ziploc bags with her. That would be my best guess anyway.
Yeah, but something I guess might be something that police officers do a lot. If my dad, it's a habit my dad had going for him. So
I guess it makes sense.
that's something specifically I wanted to point out because, like, again, there are a lot of scenes in this movie where it's like, oh, I'm more like Judy, or oh, I'm more like Nick in this scene. And this scene, it's like, oh yeah, I probably would be the random guy with a random Ziploc bag handy when it rains to protect the cell phone because that's just how I was raised.
Son, there's important things in life you need to know. One of those things is always to carry a Ziploc bag. You're just totally prepared.
Yeah, I'm not as crazy as my dad because he would also make sure to have a flashlight carried around, one of those small portable umbrellas just in case. Those aroma scent salts, the salts that you snap to wake you up if you passed out. Like
some good sturdy rope.
Yeah, exactly.
Gloves,
Rope.
a ski mask,
Carabiner,
just standard stuff.
Well, a bunch of paper, a bunch of pins. The safety pins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically all that stuff. But
yeah, your dad sounds like someone who was ready to swim down a toilet anytime. That's great.
Sure, if you can find one big enough for a human to swim down.
So, but okay, back to the toilet though. It is this absurdly large toilet, and obviously, like in the real world, we have no equivalent to this. Obviously, a prisoner isn't going to escape through a toilet. Like that's not possible. But in a world where you do have animals of different sizes, that is a consideration you probably have to make. I mean, it makes you think these cells had to have been designed only to keep animals of a specific size. So maybe if the same hospital did at some point keep smaller animals, they were in a different part with cells that were designed for smaller animals. Because otherwise, like I suppose Otterton only hasn't gone down the toilet because he's still in like this savage state and it just doesn't occur to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because at that point, if you're this is me role-playing the Animorphs transformation thing. If you all of a sudden wound up in the body of the otter and, when you turn into an animal for that, sometimes your consciousness doesn't shift over and you are in that animal mindset for the first few hours.
Oh, of course.
If you are a small otter, you're not going to know what a toilet is, and you're not going to know that if you go on top of this weird porcelain-shaped thing, which is very, very hard to climb up of because it's sloped sides that are really, really slippery, you're not going to know that when you get to the top that there is a place you could jump down and then there's water, and if for some reason you somehow also also hit the nozzle at the top, that hole will open and then it'll flush down. So, I mean, there's a lot of different steps here that you have to have the human mindset to understand before you can make that work. I'm just saying that from the perspective if you turn into an otter, since it's TF Tuesday, for a brief period. That's what I'm going to say. But, that could also mean they have prepared for this. Maybe they taped up the toilet. Like, we didn't see his room exactly that well. Maybe they taped up the toilet bowl. Or going back in our theory, since this is a very brand new looking hospital, perhaps they made this because they knew they were going to be welcoming a bunch of predators. And if they're going to be stereotypical enough to assume all predators are the ones going savage, they might also be in the same mindset that all predators are large, imposing mammals. So we only need to build toilets for these large, imposing mammals.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a prison. It's a mental hospital sort of being used as a prison. But it also makes you think like that almost sounds like a prisoner's rights thing. Like all the small mammals are like lobbying to make sure that there's toilets that actually can accommodate their size, or maybe vice versa. Like, I don't want to have to use a toilet where I have to like basically hang over a giant cliff into like a lake below me. Like that sounds like a prisoner's rights type of thing that you might see, where it's like, we need to make sure the toilets can actually accommodate everybody. Because I'm sure it could be very awkward if you are a smaller animal and this is the only toilet like that you like to use as an actual toilet, and it's this like precarious pit that you can fall into. So more interesting things. That's something that's come up a lot in this show, is just like how different sized animals, you'd have to make considerations for those.
And this is another thing I want to point out. And I think Adam, when he was a guest on one of our previous minutes, brought it up when he was talking about
Your movie
the
sucks,
exaggerated size differences. So Adam was talking about how when Judy was in Little Rodentia, how she looked much taller than the mice and the buildings than what realistically a rabbit would look compared to other rodents.
Yeah,
and in this
for sure.
case, Nick looked so small to a human toilet when in reality an average sized fox in the human world wouldn't look that small compared to a toilet. So again, it's just size exaggerations. But then again, these toilets are probably made for like tigers and lions, not humans. So I guess another thing
for sure
to think of. But.
All right. Well, we've talked about toilets for like 10 minutes now, so I think it's time to move on.
Is that your ceramic soda?
Oh my gosh, no, you already know my... Yeah, I'm in this scene. I'm on the floor in this scene.
Oh god. Oh, is that your
my tile
soda?
soda makes a little cameo, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the next thing we see, Judy says, can you swim? Nick says, yes, what? Of course I can swim. Why? And the next thing we see are these wolf guards busting through the outer door into this hallway of cells, armed with tasers with laser sights. And they kind of come in sniffing, trying to figure out where anyone might have gone to. And they just see this toilet flushing. And then this one guard gets sort of a weird look on his face, wondering what is that about? And the next thing we see are Nick and Judy going down this pipeline filled with water. Not filled with water, they can still breathe. It's basically like a water slide and rapidly approaching a light at the end of the tunnel. Where else does this sewer put them out but over a gigantic waterfall? The same waterfall that Cliffside is sitting above, I suppose. And then they kind of tumble down. We get this really cool shot of the waterfall behind them as they're both falling. Really cool attention to detail in the water here. It looks super realistic to me. There's like all this mist coming down and they're falling, and Nick is kind of going this whole time and kind of flailing about and like flipping over, like not sure what to do. Meanwhile, Judy apparently knows exactly what to do. You can see her plugging her nose and straightening her legs out, getting ready to plunge into this water here, while Nick is just kind of like flailing about.
Okay, so watching this movie in theaters for my first time, this is the scene that stood out for me because I like to see how Disney or animated shows simulate realistic situations like falling off a waterfall. Nick's fall looked completely natural. If you had to animate an anthro fox falling from a waterfall, that's it.
As
Judy,
you so often do.
Okay, for some reason, every time I see this scene, every time I see Judy, I think of nothing more than a Muppet simulating a fall on the way down. And you see, when you see how Muppets act when they look like they fall, it looks so fake. I don't know why, but every time I see Judy falls, it just looks so fake. It looks like a Muppet doll just fell down.
Really? Nick is more ragdoll to me because he's flipping out. He's going head over heels.
No, but I think that's how I for some reason, Nick's fall is completely fine for me, but my eyes always focus on Judy and how Muppet-like she looks when she falls. And that, I don't know why it's my pet peeve, but that's always bugged me every time I see this movie. I was just like, oh, I don't like the way they animated Judy's fall.
I don't have an issue with it. You can tell this is her police training. Like she's had to deal with a scenario like this in her training, I'm sure. So she knows what to do.
Yeah, so again, let's bring back my dad, who I have not visited visited in like a year. And wait, yeah, I keep on bringing him up.
You're
Yes,
too
I do
busy
have
with
daddy.
your horse trade shows.
I know, I have daddy
understands.
issues. Anyways, my dad, when he was in the Marine Corps, he flew helicopters. And, you know, sometimes when you have to bail on an aircraft, you have to you have to jump out of the plane or helicopter. If your parachute doesn't work, there is a small chance if you could survive from these heights if you fall a certain way. So that way of falling is you fall feet first, you have your toes extended. Basically, you're trying to have as little surface area coming into contact with the ground or water first. In the case of water, you're trying to have a small point of surface area break the water tension so that the other parts could go through without slapping on the water. And the main thing you will use is you have your toes extended outward, and then your feet, and then the rest of your legs. So in most cases, you're going to assume you're going to either die, or at the very, very least, you're going to break something. And if you need to break something, you better break your legs. So basically, you're trying to use your legs to break your fall and cushion it so that the rest of your body at least survives, because you might as well be crippled and not be alive at all. So in most cases, when you jump out of a plane and for some reason your parachute is not working, you want to at least try to fall feet, toes first. And I think there's been some videos on YouTube talking about people who survived, and like the 17 people who survived jumping out of a plane without the parachute working have survived in a similar method. So Judy's is doing her proper police training. She just looks like a Muppet when she's doing it.
I still don't know how you're getting that out of that.
It bugs me, okay? This is the one scene that bugs me.
I remember, the thing you're talking about, the surface tension, I remember there was a Mythbusters episode where it was like, if you're a construction worker and you're falling into water from way high up, if you threw a hammer or some object down so it hits the water just before you, could doing that save you because it breaks the surface tension of the water? Like, that made me think of that. I remember that being on Mythbusters. I don't remember the outcome, though. But anyway, like, it is interesting to see, like, these are definitely two very different characters. It's fun to see how they both react differently to the situation. Despite Judy looking like she goes in much better prepared than Nick actually pops his head out of the water first, and as soon as he does so, you can actually see he's showing a bit of concern here for Judy, because as soon as they land, he pops his head up out of the water, and then you see him yell, "Carrots! Hops! Judy!" He says Judy. He says her name. Is this the first time he actually calls her by her proper name, or did he do it once before?
I believe this is it, yeah.
Yeah, which is really significant. This is showing more of a development in the relationship, I think.
Character development.
Yeah, we had kind of a tender moment earlier when they were riding on that sky gondola, and Nick kind of opened up to Judy about his past and kind of why he has the outlook on life that he does. And now you can see, like, he's been really sarcastic with Judy much of the time, calling her carrots. But you can see, like, hey, he remembers her actual name, Judy. Like, he calls out, he cares about what has happened to Judy. So there is a bit of character development there, which I think is really awesome to see, for sure.
And I guess before we move on to the next scene, I did actually want to point out the scene right before then, when they flushed the toilets and went down. I liked the scene with the wolves entering with their taser guns on, and the wolf looks into the cell, sees the toilet bowl plop, and kind of gives a confused look. That is, again, a very, very nice scene. It's like kind of how, confused dogs look. The wolf gives that
the
scene when he sees the toilet.
Thing.
Yeah, it's like,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Judy does pop her head above the water. She turns out to be totally okay, and she says, "We gotta tell Bogo," clutching her phone in that Ziploc, showing that she has indeed retained that phone. So then we have a scene change. The next thing we see is Chief Bogo himself. His head actually is pasted onto a tiger dancing with Gazelle. And it's that same app that Clawhauser was using earlier with the sort of automated voice, like, "Wow, you're one hot dancer, Chief Bogo." And you can see Chief Bogo's kind of enjoying this. It zooms out. You see he's staring at his phone, doing a little sort of dance as he's sitting at his desk, which is kind of cute. Then the door pops open. It's Clawhauser, who yells, "Chief Bogo!" Bogo says, "Not now!" And then Clawhauser apparently can still hear the music coming from Bogo's phone and says, "Wait, is that Gazelle?" "No." And then you hear the app, his phone under his clasped hands as he tries to cover it up. "I'm Gazelle, and you are one hot dancer." Clawhauser then says, "You have the app too?" "Oh, Chief!" And he kind of brings his paws up to his hands, like, "Oh," like a kind of a thing. Bogo's clearly embarrassed here, says, Clawhauser, can't you see I'm working on the missing mammal cases? Oh, yes, of course, about that, sir. And then the minute ends as Clawhauser's kind of stammering to respond here. So kind of a cute little moment to end this scene, a humorous little thing here we can see kind of the softer side of Bogo, because usually we've gotten this sort of hard exterior. He's kind of like the grizzled veteran type character that's been really tough on Judy, and here you can see him kind of letting his guard down in his office, clearly not expecting to be interrupted by Clawhauser pushing his door open like that.
Yeah, all this stuff combined is really, really great. And the one thing that kind of bugs me is Disney. See, Disney is great in some areas. In some areas, they could have just done a little bit more and they failed. They should have made that app a real app.
I know. We were talking about this too. I remember this coming up like at the last episode we did at Everfree, I think, where it was like, is this a real app or not? I think someone said it was, but it got removed. Or did we ever determine that?
I don't think it was really a thing. And I don't know why.
It's such
seems
an obvious
to be
merch thing.
It seems to be Disney. So another good example of Disney, I'm not going to say messing up, but failing to do something cute that would tie in the story with real life instances is when in Avengers Infinity Wars, when Tony Stark dials up Steve Rogers' phone number, they show Steve Rogers' actual phone number. And if you call
I remember this coming up.
It just leads to nothing. But the directors of the movie already said no. They already got that phone number ready and saved up, and they were ready to have They had Chris Evans record a nice little voicemail. So if you called it up, you'll listen to the voicemail. But for some reason, Disney just didn't want to go through with it.
It's probably just to like, hey, we wanted to do this, but we were like prioritizing other things, and it just kind of fell apart. Never happened.
But I think that's what made the Russell T Davies era of Doctor Who so good, because when you were looking up. So when that crazy guy was looking up that Doctor Who website, you could actually look up that Doctor Who website and it would pop up. So
yeah. From the very first episode of the rebooted series, you mean? Yeah, I remember that.
So I don't know.
There's things you can do, but it's like I'm not like super mad that they didn't. It's maybe like a missed opportunity, but it's whatever, you know.
Oh, I'm super mad. I'm super mad at missed opportunities, especially when it relates to
screw
fluffy
this
animals.
movie.
Yeah,
this movie sucks.
Yeah, I give it 2 out of 5 stars. It's fine.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's where the minute ends on this last scene here with Bogo being interrupted by Clawhauser, and I'm interested to see what happens now, because essentially Judy is right about to crack this case wide open. So I'm really interested to see how Bogo responds, how the police department responds, how Lionheart responds if Lionheart gets into trouble too. That's going to be interesting, and that is what we're going to be talking about on our very next episode, which of course, for those of you who know, is going to be our live episode at Everfree Northwest coming up here. That's going to be minute 69, so definitely try to check that out.
Yep, minute 69. We didn't choose that minute on purpose. It's nice.
Yeah, no, it just sort of ended up that way, but that should be fun.
So Simul, since you are the one of the staffers for Everfree, would you care to tell us which time, date, and room that is in?
So yes, again, if you guys are going to be at Everfree Northwest in Seattle, Washington, coming up here May the 17th through the 19th, the Zootopia Minute live panel is going to take place on Friday in the Celestia room, and that's going to be from 4:45 to 5:45 p.m. on Friday. Now, we are going to have AC Racebest on once again as our special guest. He's been a guest we featured on a number of our live episodes, actually. I think 3 so far, right? So this will be his 4th appearance, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, should be fun. So he'll be joining us again. He's always great to talk to. He's a big fan of this movie, so I'm sure he'll have a lot to share as well. So if any of you guys are going to Everfree Northwest, please try and check us out. We'd love to meet you.
Yep, that'll be fun. And we might have some special announcements then. We are hoping to get our Patreon started up by then, so be on the lookout for that, and our new online store. Right now, I'm in the middle of test ordering some t-shirts with our podcast logo and our characters on them. And should we get some products we like, we will probably open an online store so you could get some of your own Zootopia Minute merch to wear and show off to your friends. And that little bit of money will go a long way to help support our podcast.
Yes, indeed. And we'll have more information for that at the live episode for sure. Anything else?
I'm going to Disney World for my birthday, so yeah. It's gonna be
Are
fun.
you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah.
That's so great. I still have never been. I really want to. Oh, well.
Well, my birthday actually fell on the weekend of Furry Week in Atlanta, and that was one of the cons where I didn't get a dealer's table, so it'll be in the Artist Alley, and Artist Alley is a bit more work because it requires you have to set up and take down the same day for all 3 days. So I'm like, do I really want to work on my birthday, or do I want to have fun? And Ben noticed he did have the weekend off, so we're like, all right, let's just go to Disney World for my birthday.
Disney World. Let's do it.
Which is great because I also got the Be Our Guest restaurant on the day of my birthday.
Awesome.
I was able to book Be Our Guest, so I'm going to be eating dinner there at Be Our Guest. It'll be fun.
Very fun. Super cool. All right. Well, before we wrap this episode up, do you just want to plug your booth at Everfree?
What's my booth? Yeah, let me look it up.
I had to look up the panel, and you were like scolding me for that, and you were like, "Oh, what is my booth number?"
Oh yeah, you're in charge.
I have
of
to
all
look
the
it up for
panels
you. And you're in charge of your booth. You're in charge of your booth.
I could be lazy about it if I want to as well. It's not a mandatory. It's not expected of me.
Yeah, so don't get mad at me. That's all I'm saying.
No,
Seriously.
you are
right.
vice chair and in
Choco's
charge of
booth
panels.
is 25 and 26 in the vendors hall at Everfree Northwest. Go check him out. He sells tarot cards, badges, flags, lots of really cool stuff.
Yes, if you guys come to Everfree Northwest, it's in the back of the hall, right by the exit. I'm right by the exit for the third year in a row. 25 and 26. Go check it out.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So I think this is a good place to wrap up the episode. Thank you guys, as always, so much for listening to the podcast. If you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter at Zootopia Minute, like us on Facebook, same name. And if you got anything you want to share with us at all, you can always send your thoughts to zootopiaminute@gmail.com. And with that, we're here to say goodbye. We will see you guys live at Everfree Northwest.
See you live in Seattle. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.